This is a CS Plus production brought to you by Baldwin Wallace University.
We left off with having the bear keep coming from the right to the left and then allowing Dot to jump over the bear, or at least jump. But right now we don't have it to where, well, what happens if the bear touches Dot? What do we want to do? Do we want to have it be game over? Do we want to increase the score every time Dot is able to jump over a bear? And do we want to add some different backdrops and maybe some random speed values for that bear? So that's what we're actually going to take a look at today. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this. So the thing that we want to do is we want to figure out, okay, what happens if the bear touches Dot? And so to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to go over here to control, and we're going to use an if statement or an if block. And what an if block does allows us to check for a particular condition. And so it's a really fundamental component in programming. And what I want to do is I want to check, I'm going to move this if here, and automatically put that move 10 steps and next costume in there, but I'm going to move that down. And I'm going to go to my sensing here because I'm going to sense if that bear touches Dot. So I'm going to go to sensing here. I'm going to drag that touching block over and say, well, if that bear is touching Dot, then we want to do something. So the bear really isn't responsible for figuring out who ends the game, but it should broadcast out a message saying, hey, I touched Dot. If you want to end the game, do whatever you got to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to go under events, and we're going to broadcast out a message. And so here I have dot touch, but you want to do new message and then type in dot touch there and then hit OK. And then so the idea here is when we broadcast out that message, we want another component to be able to catch that message. So think of like broadcasting a message almost as like playing catch, or you're throwing a ball that has a message on it and you want another component to be able to catch that message. So I'm going to go to backdrops here, and I'm going to grab that block over here. When I receive dot touched, what do we want to do for the game? And so I'm going to go under control here and just say, you know what, once that happens, let's just stop everything. And so what we should see is if that bear touches Dot, the bear will stop moving, Dot will stop moving. Let's go ahead and test it out. So I'm going to try jumping over the bear once. The bear touches, and then everything stops. So what I want to do, though, is if the bear touches Dot, well, then the game's over. In this game, we want to make sure that the user is always jumping over the character that's coming in from the right. So what we want to do is we want to show the user something, because if we just stop here, the user might actually not know what happened and might think that there's a bug in our game. So with the backdrop selected, if we go ahead and click on the backdrops tab, you notice that we got that first one from the game. We can go ahead and delete that. We don't need that. And then we have our forest here. And so what I want to do is I want to make a game screen that essentially says game over. So I'm going to go over here. We're going to get a little creative. I'm going to do paint. And we'll actually build our own. So I'm going to create a background. And so I'm going to do a fill here and then grab a shape. And for that shape, I'm going to do maybe just a very simple black background. So I'm going to draw that shape on here. And then now that we have that, I'm going to add some text to this background. I'm going to change the color. So I'm going to increase the brightness, and you can notice that you can change the color here. So I'm going to slide to maybe like a bright blue. And then I'm going to click in there and just type in game over. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, so I'm going to expand it out like that. And I'm going to make the font have a little bit more style. Maybe we could do like a game style. So I'll do a pixel here to where we have game over. So if I go back to my code, when I receive that dot touch, I want to show this backdrop. Now it's showing right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go under looks, and I'm going to say switch to backdrop 2, and then we have backdrop 1. Well, that's not really a good name for our backdrop. So I'm going to go over to this backdrop tab, and I'm going to give it a better name. So I'm going to call it the game over backdrop. And if we go back to our code, you'll notice it automatically updates. So when dot is touched, we're going to switch the backdrop to game over, and then we're going to stop everything. But when we start the game, I want to have that initial forest backdrop. So I'm going to go to control. I'm going to go to events, and I'm going to say when that green flag is clicked, let's switch the backdrop to the forest. And then so if I hit that green flag, let's go ahead and test this out. Oh, well, the bear's still touching dot. I hit the green flag again. There's the forest. I jump over. I let the bear touch me. And then there I see that game over screen. I'm going to try it again. I'm going to do that. I'm going to jump early. And you'll notice that dot lands on the bear. And so watch what happens when we click that green flag. Well, the bear kind of inches by. And then dot kind of stays like hovered at the top. So just like how we kind of reset things over in our backdrop here to say, well, when the green flag is clicked, make sure we're using the forest. I want to do the same thing with dot. I want to make sure that when I click on that green flag, that we move dot right back into the starting position. And so I'm actually going to move dot into what I think would be the starting position there. And then go over to my motion block. And then say, go to that X and Y value. And right now it has the current coordinates here for dot. And I want to do the same thing for our bear. So I'm going to click on the bear. I'm going to move the bear into the right starting position. I'm just going to move it off the screen a little bit. And I'm going to say, go to that X and Y value. And so let's go ahead and test it out now. So I jump over, if I were to land on the bear, and I start the game over, then we reset. So now that we have where we can reset the game and start it, what I like to do is I like to build in a score mechanism into this. And so there's a couple ways that we could do it. What I'm going to do is I want to just kind of broadcast out an event. Whenever that bear gets off the screen, we can assume that I successfully jumped over it, because otherwise if I touched that bear, we would have had that stop all. So just like how we have that bear broadcast a message out that dot was touched, I'm going to go back over here to events. And I'm going to say, well, look, if I go off the screen, well then the dot must have successfully jumped over us. So I'm going to broadcast a message out. And I'm going to do a new message. I'm going to call it bear regenerate. So we're regenerating the bear essentially from the first part of this camp. We're hiding the bear, we move it back to the right side of the screen, and then we're having it come over. I'm going to click OK. And then so now what I want to do is I'm going to go to my backdrops. And just like how when I receive a dot touched, I'm going to put in there when I receive a bear regenerate. That means that dot successfully jumped over to bear and that we should increase a score. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. But to do that, we need to create a new variable called score. And then hit OK. Now you'll notice that as soon as we did that, we have the score up here on the right. You can move that around to however you like. In fact, you can even, if you wanted to, do a large readout. You just kind of right click on there and then it will just kind of show it there. Okay. And so when I receive that bear regenerate, what I want to do is I want to change my score by 1. So I'm going to do a quick test of this. So I jumped over that bear. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. That's 4, and so on. And if I were to play this game again, whoop, I jumped a little bit too early. Notice my score's 4. And then if we hit the green flag to start again, I start at 4. Well, we really don't want that. We want them to start back at 0. So if you think about how we could do this, well, when we click on that green flag, we start the game over. And then so all I have to do is just drag over that set block to set my score back again to 0. And I can run that game over again. And I'm going to test to see if I touch the bear like I did there. And if I hit that green flag, I see it reset to 0. So a simple way that we can modify this game is that every time the bear regenerates, we know that the score increases. And maybe what we want to do is maybe after the user scores 5 points, maybe to have them go to a new level. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say, okay, well, look, for our backdrops, we have these different scenes, if you will, and I'm going to choose a new backdrop. And maybe what we'll do is we'll go to the boardwalk next. Now I'm just going to kind of rearrange these so they kind of have a logical flow. So we start in a forest, we go to the boardwalk. I'm going to choose another one. Maybe once we go by the boardwalk, we get to a city. Well, that looks like we'd be walking on the water there. We got a night city here. I'm going to go ahead and pick that. And then over in the code here for the backdrops, I'm going to check if that score reaches a certain value, I'm going to change the backdrop. So I'm going to go under looks, and then I'm going to bring over that switch backdrop tag, but I need to say, well, if something happens. So just like with our bear, I'm going to go to our bear really quick. We check to see if we're touching dot, then do this. We're going to have the same kind of mechanism here to say if score equals 5, then switch the backdrop to a different backdrop. So I'm going to bring an if block over here. And then I want to see if that score equals a certain value. So I'm going to go under operators. And we see that equals 50 would take quite a bit of time. I'm going to change that to 5. And then down here in my variables, I'm going to say score. So if that score is equal to 5, let's switch the backdrop to boardwalk. So we go to a new level. And I can repeat this. I'm going to actually just kind of drag that F block out here, and I'm going to duplicate this for the other levels. And just kind of snap those together and then bring it over here. So if that score is equal to 5, we go to the boardwalk. If that score is equal to 10, I'm going to go to the night city. And then maybe if that score is equal to 15, let's add a new backdrop. Maybe we left the city. Let's see if we can find a fun one here. No, maybe we ran away from the bear so much we ended up in space. So I'm going to do a space city here. So I'm going to change that to Space City 2. I'm going to test it out. So there's a bear in the forest. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Our bear kind of blends in with the boardwalk. I guess we could choose a different backdrop, or we could actually move their position to be a little bit higher. You see the bear in the city. Now, for the most part, the game is kind of the same, right? In the sense that all that you do is kind of jump over the bear, and the bear's kind of moving at the same speed. So I'm going to stop it because we would just keep going here. We could also do a game over screen or a game finish screen, just like how we did the game over. But what I like to do though is kind of the same. I want to add a little bit more difficulty to this. Every time we change the score in the game, what we could do is we could have the bear do something different. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually increase the speed of the bear to have it go a little bit faster in each level. And so just like how when I get this message, bear regenerate, I'm going to broadcast a message out to say, hey bear, increase your speed. And the way I'm going to do that is by broadcasting out to the sprites level changed. Okay. And so what I'm going to do first though is in our backdrop, when we create a variable, that variable is available to all the sprites. And so I'm going to put in there the level. And so when we do this, when we do score equals 5, I'm going to set my level to 2. And then I'm going to change it here to 3. I'm going to change it here to 4. And then we want to make sure, because we always run into a situation where we forget to kind of reset values. So I'm going to make sure I do that now. I learned from my lesson. I'm going to set my level to 1. And so if a level changes, what I want to do is I want to broadcast a message out to the sprites to let them know. So I'm going to go under events and I'm going to broadcast out a new message saying level changed. And I'm just going to bring that over here and then just do level changed. Okay. All right, so now that we have that, what I want to do is I want to increase the bear's speed. So how fast the bear's moving. So I'm going to go back to my bear walking. And just like how we can catch events over in our backdrop, I'm going to catch an event over here. So I'm going to say when I receive level changed, I'm going to check what that level is. Now, the variables we created for the bear, or I'm sorry, for dot, are just available to dot, but the variable for the backdrop we can access with the bear. So I'm going to go under operators here and I'm going to check if that level is equal to 2. Well, then what I want to do is I want to increase the bear speed. So I'm going to bring over that level here. And to increase that speed, I need to take this 10 here and essentially convert it to a variable. So I'm going to make a new variable. And I'm going to set it for this sprite only because really the other one shouldn't really care about the bear speed. And so if that level is equal to 2, I want to set my bear speed to be a little bit faster. So I might do like a 12 here. Now, for this move here, I need to change that so it's no longer a 10. I need to change it to where it's the bear speed. And just like before where we sometimes forget to reset values, I'm going to make sure that I set my bear speed when we click that green flag to initial value. So I'm going to set it equal to 10. Now you'll notice that we have those variables showing over here. In order for us not to show those, I'm just going to uncheck those boxes because really I don't think that the bear speed we need to have on there on the game for the user. And so we should notice that if we get to level 2, the bear speed increases a little bit more. So I'm going to click that green flag now. Jump 1, jump 2, 3, 4, and then 5. Now it should. Now bear's coming faster. Oh, maybe a little bit too fast for me. But that's how we can set that bear speed. And the changes you can test them out for the game that you're making. You might want to adjust it to maybe just 11 to 12 to 13. But I'm going to go ahead and drag those if blocks over. And then essentially do the same thing that we had here. And so if the level's 3, I'm going to increase it to a higher value. Maybe I'll do 14. Maybe I'll do it by 2 each time. And I could just keep duplicating that block. And then set it to increase to a certain value. So every time we go to a new level, the speed will increase. And if I want to change how that level gets reached, I can do that within the backdrop. So I'm actually going to go to my backdrop because I don't necessarily want to jump 5 times to get to the next level for my testing. So I'm going to go to my backdrop, and I just need to make sure that I come back and change it again if I need to. So I'm going to do it, the score is equal to 1, and then maybe do 3, and then 5, just for my testing, so I can quickly go on to the next level. So I'm going to click that green flag. So there's a bear once. Now we're at the next level. Bear's faster. I do 2 jumps. Now it's really fast. Oh boy. I almost had to jump as soon as I hit the ground. Well, I didn't make it there. So that's a way that we can add multiple levels to the game and do some variation to it. If you want to add randomness to the game, I'm going to show how to do that here. So what we may want to do is have the bear move up to a certain speed. So between 2 values. So here we have the bear speed set to 12, to 14, and then to 16. And it seems that when we do a bear speed of 10, that is a fairly decent value to use within here. So what I'm going to do is every time we repeat this code to say, hey, keep moving that bear until we get off the screen, I want to set maybe a random speed inside of here, right at the beginning of that forever loop. So I'm going to create a new variable here, and I'm going to call it bear random speed, and have it only for the bear sprite. And now that I have that bear random speed there, if I scroll up here, I see that pick random block. And then under here, my variables, I'm going to set bear random speed equal to a random value. So we use 10 at the initial start of the game. And the bear speed that we change can be like our upper limit. So we'll choose a random value between 10 and 12, and then 10 and 14, and 10 and 16. So I'm going to put that here at the top of my forever block. And so I'm going to do 10 to that bear speed that was set. And so I'm just going to drag that bear speed over. I'm just going to kind of bring this over a little bit. And so remember, we don't want to show this here, so I'm just going to uncheck that. And then what we should have is that bear moving some sort of random speed between 10 and, well, just 10 for that first level, and then 10 and 12 for the second level, 10 and 14 for the third level, and so on. And so this will kind of make it a little bit harder for the user because if they just kind of get used to jumping the same speed, they can just kind of time it, but then they kind of have to watch to see how fast the bear is moving. So I'm going to hit that green flag. And on the first jump, it's always the same, but their bear speed can now be random. So it's really moving fast there. But you know what, though? It seemed that the bear random speed didn't change. Well, if I look over here, well, we have a little bug here. I just had bear speed here, but I actually want moving a random speed. So I'm going to bring that random speed block over here, and then let's test it out again. It's really slow there. Still kind of slow. A little bit faster there. Picking up the pace. Very fast. I'm going to see if it picks a slower value. There it is. So that was much slower. Ooh, really fast. So we add some variation in that. And you can change the range of that randomness value by just kind of increasing that top speed to whatever it is. So these are just some ways that you can modify the different levels of your game. You can, of course, add different levels. And using the logic that you have for the bear, you can also change what characters Dot has to jump over, or maybe you have another character that might fly down to Dot, and then Dot has to move to the left or right to dodge that character. But there's other things that you could do with Scratch. It's not just games that you can create. If you like this tech camp and you want to learn some more about Scratch, there's a bunch of tutorials that you can look at for free. And you can just kind of click in these and kind of work through them. You can build cartoons, you could build stories, you could build a music game. In fact, even for our game here too, we have sounds that we could play. So if you ever wanted to choose some music, there's different effects and sounds that you can play here. Maybe even for our game, we want to play a space sound. And I'll just kind of show how to do that really quick. I'm going to go to back here. And you may not hear this sound over the video, but when I click on that green flag in my backdrop, if I wanted to start playing a sound, all I have to do is go over to the sound tab over here, and then I can just do start sound. And then so if I click that green flag, I'll hear it on my headphones, but you may not hear it in the video, but you can do that there too. And so you can also do things where maybe if the bear touches Dot, we want to play a different sound too, to where like it reached it. So we can also do those effects here too. So this is just some ways that you can customize your game. Again, I encourage you to check out the different tutorials in Scratch, and thank you for watching.